Hey, Spood. What are we doing today?
Hey, we are actually just going to take a look at Magma.
Magma? You mean Magma Division?
Magma Balls! Hello and welcome back to Double Dip Draft Season 8, Week 5, Magma Division Recap. I am your host, Spood, coach of the Southtown Sandslashers, and joining me as always
is White Loaf, coach of the Bayou Belly Bolts.
Wow, this is a doozy of a week, let me tell you. These are some matches that raised my blood pressure. We were just taking notes on these and thinking like, whoa, man, there is some stressful matches in here. And excited to share them with you, but before we get into that, let's really, we'll set the stakes going into this. Entering this week, we've got 4 people sitting at 3-1. And we've also got Anchor kind of nipping right at their heels, not currently sitting at 3-1, but sitting at 2-2 with a +5 diff, which puts them, relatively speaking, ahead of the curve on differential. So Anchor is not terribly positioned, but obviously would prefer to be one of the 3-1s with a slightly lower diff.
Yep. But, mainly just wants that win so they can get back up into that top 4 spot, especially since most of the top 4 at this point are battling each other, I believe. I know Cabral is obviously battling Anchor. Kenneth is battling Heerlen and Hawluchas.
Yep.
I think Bekasi is the only one not currently battling a top 4 contender at this moment.
Right, he's fighting Snake down at 1-3, so... But you'll see, and again, not to get ahead of ourselves, but going into next week, you're going to just keep seeing the top 4 kind of infighting, because a lot of the people sitting in the top 4 have gotten their wins on a lot of the people in the bottom 4. Now we're seeing those people contesting each other. But we got to see how it all sort of shakes out, because to start, we do have Cabral of the Slinging Aegislashers fighting Anchor of DuDanishDunsparce. Anchor showing a lot of promise this season on their first go, has been looking pretty solid into a lot of their games, but has been coming up basically just short on their losses and looking pretty strong on their wins. Conversely, Cabral, this is the best season he's ever had. I don't think that you can even contest that. Going into week 5 at 3-1 is like pretty good.
Yeah, Cabral has been playing really well. Also, just as a gentle reminder, Cabral, I love you.
That's true. It's beautiful. It's beautiful what we've got going on here. It's a lot of love being shared. So really, like we said just going into this, Cabral's sitting at the front of the pack. He's not ahead by win-loss compared to the other people in top 4, but he is ahead substantially. He's got 5 diff on everybody else around him. And Anchor also ahead on diff. Again, Anchor with 1 less win than the pack, but also the same diff as everybody else. So if they win this, they are going to not just jump up into like 4th, they're probably going to jump as high as like 2nd or even 1st place, depending on how hard they win. Looking at the actual matchup as far as Pokemon versus Pokemon go, I gotta be so real, Blaziken looks terrible in its matchup.
Blaziken looks borderline unusable, which is a crazy sentence to say.
For real, like, Speed Boost Blaziken is the kind of thing that beats entire drafts by itself, but we're looking at Anchor's draft and it's like, dude, in the rain, everything here is so physically bulky. Like, Turtonator doesn't take any kind of meaningful damage. Mega Swampert, frankly, doesn't take any meaningful damage if it's not behind a Shedtail sub. It's so vulnerable to getting Thunder Waved by Grimmsnarl. It can't even break Politoed, to be honest.
Yeah, it's sad right now.
So, Blaziken's going to need a lot of help to get through this game. I think we're probably going to see Cabral leaning more heavily on his other picks.
Yeah, conversely, though, Zydog, 1000 Arrow spam does look very nice. Obviously, Sceptile can just kind of come in. But even then, it's not going to love taking damage from that, especially since it does want the Shed Tail. Or at least the way Anchor's usually been running it, it wants the Shed Tail.
Yeah. And it's not like it can ever even really choose to run both. Like, Sceptile's stats are pretty bad across the board.
Yeah, Turtonator can actually shrug off at least a hit or two and fire back with a Dragon Pulse. So, Anchor's definitely got a lot of answers right now.
Yeah. I think it's worth considering that, Turtonator very physically bulky, but very specially lacking, which is a good trait into this team, but isn't perfect, especially given there's a Hisuian Zoroark there that has been causing some problems in this division. It has been quite a strong pickup for Cabral, and it's really paid for itself several times over already. And it's looking like really one of his only realistic counters to Turtonator, because, look at the rest of this team into Turtonator. After it shell smashes, it's pretty much outrunning all of it.
Yeah, and I think one of the biggest things to be wary of is the fact that Zoroark likes to run Hyper Voice. So even behind a sub, it's still gonna take a lot of damage. So you have to play it very cautiously.
Yep.
And if you're not running White Herb, then it very well might just die, because I think it still outspeeds Turtonator, at least with a Scarf.
Oh, yeah. I don't even think you need a Scarf, really. Turtonator is very slow. The only reason the Shell Smash even gets it ahead of the rest of this team is because the rest of this team is very middling speed, right? Like Orthworm, Muck, and Vaporeon, and even an unboosted Blaziken are just not that fast. you know? Yeah. So it's really going to be up to Zydog and Hisuian Zoroark to, meaningfully answer that. Yeah. And I gotta say, too, Anchor's going to have to be careful with this Gengar because it looks really strong into this team, but, one Shadow Ball into something that you don't know is Hisuian Zoroark, and then you're gone. It's over.
Yep.
But I would love to see how it plays out, and we're going to watch now.
Yes, let's get into it. The Muck lead, very safe, honestly.
Yeah.
Very ballsy play to go into Gengar on, like, a random knockoff, or a high roll crit Shadow Sneak.
Yeah, we calc that. That's not only a crit, but it's also a high roll. It needed to be both to kill from that range, and it was.
Yeah.
Very unfortunate for Anchor, especially because that Curse Body would have prevented a follow-up Shadow Sneak, so they could have two-shot it back realistically, but, not the world we live in.
Yep. That's the game we play.
Blaziken comes out. It's about to do 0 damage to Turtonator. Just kidding! It's Hisuian Zoroark!
Faker!
I found you, Faker!
I thought you were the fake Blaziken around here.
Grimmsnarl, very free Thunder Wave into pretty much anything there, and really this Muck is super annoying, still kind of sitting at high health, and it can't even really be burnt on account of being paralyzed now, so that Poison Touch also coming in pretty clutch, putting it in range of a Shadow Sneak, so you don't even get additional chip on this thing.
If I had a nickel for every time I saw a Muck come out today and get poison from Poison Touch, I would actually have a lot of nickels today.
Most of them don't come from this match, in fairness, but okay, that was really an interesting series of events that unfortunately we kind of blew past, but Anchor does the bulk up to get guaranteed value. Cabral brings this in, maybe expecting an Earthquake, but then reveals that he was Metal Burst and effectively is able to 1v1 the Swampert. Another crit, but this one pretty much definitely didn't matter.
Really good play on Cabral's, and then a nice Darkest Lariat. Unfortunately, a lot of chip from Life Orb and Rocky Helmet, but full para does keep Grimmsnarl alive. Manages to take down Muck. At this point, though, it's over.
Yeah, Life Orb Recoil takes Grimmsnarl out of the game, and honestly, as much as it would have been maybe wishful thinking, Grimmsnarl without a Life Orb there, I think still hits the damage thresholds it needs in that late game, but without doing self-recoil, you could maybe just gamble on some Thunder Waves, get some full paras and still win this. It's actually that good.
It's not impossible, in theory.
But it's tough, like that. Losing Gengar that early to such an unfortunate Shadow Sneak really put Anchor on the back foot, and there was just no real meaningful way to recover that momentum, especially after Turtonator was gone.
Yeah, it was very unfortunate.
Yeah, but again, well played by Cabral, man. He held it together. Obviously it's not like he would have lost without that Shadow Sneak. It was so early on. I'm sure he would have been able to navigate that otherwise. Especially love that Metal Burst on the on the Orthworm. It's so smart.
We mentioned earlier that this is definitely Cabral's best season, and Cabral has really been bringing just such unique sets that no one has really thought of. We still did not know that Imposter blocks transforming
Yeah,
or
for
is
Ditto.
blocked by transforming when an illusion is up.
We're learning a lot. I mean, we didn't even mention this during team preview, but actually something that he has on his team that's been going crazy is Arboliva, which would probably have been great into this matchup, honestly, thinking about stuff like Mega Swampert. But clearly, I mean, maybe he was afraid of something like Gengar being too consistent of a switch. So, you know, Cabral's team was really solid, and, you know, he just played very safely, very straightforwardly. He had a good, you know, flow chart. Had answers to anchor setup, and, you know, again, like, without Gengar there to punch holes in something early, Brawl just had all the tools he needed to make it to the end game.
Yeah.
Not the tightest diff, though.
You don't know, just a nice 2-0. But with that, it's now time to talk about our next match, which is Snake, coach of the Miami Milotics, versus Metropic, coach of the Bekasi Bisharps.
Yeah, not Snake's finest season. Metropic doing pretty well so far.
Yeah, definitely still like running the Altaria. We've got Hisui Samurott, see Volcarona again. We've got Raging Bolt, Torterra. We do see Fezandipity once again. Kind of a underrated Pokemon. I do love seeing this thing. I know it's not exactly a great Pokemon, but you know, it's always fun to see those like low value picks come in.
It's cool. It's got a cool typing, and you know, Cam had it last season, Chemith, and he used it to pretty good effect. I recall. So
yeah,
you know,
I mean, beat up
cool.
Chain is pretty annoying.
And it's very annoying, and spoiler alert, perhaps something that you'll see in this match. Conversely, I mean, Snake has, again, you know, we talked about this during the draft analysis way back when, and it still holds true. This is a rock solid. I mean, like, though, you know, Chi-Yu plus Golden Go plus Dragonite is just like, firstly, it screams VGC. It's very funny because I believe Snake is a VGC player. But, you know, that is a great core, and it can do pretty well. I really, you know, Chi-Yu especially has been having kind of a rough time in this division. I don't think it's been finding great matchups, and I gotta be honest, looking at this one from Team Preview, looks like another bad one for Chi-Yu.
Yeah, it's not great. I mean, like, it can hit Psychic, and hit Fezandipity, but then Hisui Samurott comes out and just gets a free button. It can click Dark Pulse, but again, then Hisui Samurott just comes out again.
Yep.
Any fire move, you know, Raging Bolt's just right there. Altaria's right there. Again. Yeah, Hisui Samurott is also, again, just right there.
And Terra Fairy Altaria coming back again, you know. Matt's been really loving his Altaria, and he's been using it quite a lot. It's very bulky, just, you know, puts out a lot of, you know, annoying pressure with those Will-O-Wisps, and just, honestly, like, top to bottom, you know, Altaria has been kind of a nuisance for people to break in this division, so... This game does not look too different, and I gotta be honest, I mean, from Team Preview, I'm seeing stuff like that Hisui and Samurott, like that Raging Bolt, you know, Shell Smash, Torterra, Quiver Dance, Volcarona, all look incredible in their own right, you know. Each of them has maybe one good counter on Snake's team that if it was removed, like, that opens up just so many opportunities for Matt to sweep, so... I think he's going to be playing from the back foot, Snake is, and I'd be very interested in seeing if he can pull it off.
Well, let's quell that interest and let's see how it goes.
Yeah. Ceaseless Edge right off rip is kind of funny because it's like, you know, yeah, you kind of expect this to switch out, and but Snake is just like, make me. You know, I'm just going to body press.
Nah. I'm not stuck in here with you, you're stuck in here with me.
That's one of the things that I think is underrated. It's just like a fuck you, make me. You know, in competitive Pokemon. Like, yeah, I should switch here, but I'm not gonna. Also, this is an ambitious Quiver Dance. This thing just roared.
But sir, a second Quiver Dance has hit the Volcarona.
No, he's gone. Get out of here. What are you doing Quiver Dancing in front of a roaring Mudsdale? This Mudsdale's been out of here for like 5 turns now, and it hasn't taken like any damage.
Yeah, it literally clicked Roar without Stealth Rocks. It showed it off, and then set up the rocks, and then roared again.
And then you see, right here, you get the Dragon Pulse, pretty brave, you know, in front of something that can Earthquake you, but I think maybe he was expecting to get roared again?
I mean, also,
but now he doesn't care. I don't care if you're right. I'm gonna call button again.
This is greed I haven't seen since actually re-watching my old matches to see what I can improve on.
Yeah, this is unfettered greed. This Mudsdale stayed alive without moving for 10 straight turns. And it got so many roars, it got so much value just saying, like, make me, you know? And Matt just kept going, like, I'm gonna shell smash, I'm gonna set up, I'm gonna do it, and he keeps getting roared out.
Yep. I do love the Toxic on the Belly Bolt, putting this thing on a timer, but a huge crunch, huge read right there.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's even just a good, frankly, it's a good mid-ground. Like, the crunch is always going to get value, but especially into something like an Air Balloon Golden Go, which you may expect to come. And it was great. I mean, the crunch was just very safe. Also, that Dragon Tail, yeah, just, again, you know, that was a bit of Metropic's own make me. You know, I'm Terra Fairy, and I want to make you Dragon Tail me.
Right, yep. Going for the Fire Spin, but we do have Volt Switch, so we were able to get out of there. Don't have to worry about it. And at this point, like, it is just kind of like a guessing game. You don't want to take an overheat, so I like the Raging Bolt Switch.
I think it's safe, yeah.
Yeah. And then, ooh, big Dragon Pulse on the Scrafty.
Yep.
And, you know, here we're seeing Snake getting some kills.
Yep.
Quiver Dance up. Another Quiver Dance. You know, big knockoff, Flame Body.
Big Flame Body, yeah.
Now.
Should be honestly pretty safe to set up at this point because I don't think Scrafty can really phase you, but he can encore you.
Yeah. Screw you. You're not getting 2 Quiver Dances. You're getting 3 Quiver Dances.
You're stuck in here with me. Scrafty, you know, again, like, can't really do a whole lot to Pheasantipity. Dodges the Play Rough, astonishingly. That definitely would have killed. But, you know, Snake invites another Play Rough, like, hey, man, let me give you another shot at that. Like, I don't, you know, I'm not trying to take that from you.
Try that one more time for me.
I gotta be honest, I don't think that encoring the Play Rough into any of your remaining Pokemon was the right call. Yeah, I just don't really agree with the play, unfortunately.
Yeah, my son Belly Bolt coming out here, being able to just sit in front of Torterra, we love to see it. And then beat up, you know, going for a Toxic, maybe going for like a read or something here.
I just don't see why you would double out of Pheasantipity. Like, it must have been the reason you came into Belly Bolt was because it was your best option, right? So it's probably not going anywhere.
Yeah.
But ooh, cheeky Toxic Chain on the U-turn.
Yep, double Toxic Chain. So now that Multi-Scale, it's never going to be back up to full. But we are able to go. We are going to be able to take down that Altaria. Just, you know, clicking Earthquake. It's very free right now.
Yep. He doubles out on the predicted extreme speed, which I guess, I don't know, may have been to try and get more toxic damage. If that's so, that was really smart.
Yeah.
But you just see, like, you know, honestly, even the Snake playing a little bit from behind, he still has a topped off Chi-Yu, and it's looking less and less resisted into this team.
Mm-hmm.
Although, astonishingly, this thing just tanks and overheats.
Yeah, insane.
And then, oof, another Play Rough gets Dragonite right down to that 2%.
Yeah,
and that's another free roost, you know?
Yep. Goodbye, Dragonite. Chi-Yu, you know, it's gonna come back out. Gonna be able to click Psychic.
It's a massive Psychic, yeah. That Spadef drop is huge because it means the thing can't stay in. And Snake also is just like, fine, I'm gonna switch out too, you know? Give me my Belly Bolt. I'm gonna slack off. Yep. I'm gonna static you. How about that?
Yeah. You know, he's been getting a lot of mileage out of static from Belly Bolt. My son, you know, I hate that he's being run this way, but hey, you know, it's working.
Yeah, I mean, it's no parabolic charge, but
yeah.
Yeah.
Parabolic charge be doing numbers.
So that was a great sack from Metropic on the Samurott. Not so good to go into the Volcarona after. You definitely should have gone back into Pheasantipity because it could have lived another, you know, +2. But at this point now, you've got Chi-Yu with its Psychic, threatening Spadef drop, threatening some pretty crazy high rolls with that 56% into a 48%. Like, that's an insane damage roll, but Play Rough miss removes any chance you had of winning.
Yeah, and with that, you know, Snake takes it 1-0. Coming down to Chi-Yu, the Pokemon we were talking, where it's like, doesn't look that great, but, here it is, managing to get just enough damage on the last couple Pokemon it needs to.
Yeah.
But I think the main thing it boils down to is just like, it's just so much greed.
It's just a lot of greed. Yeah, Matt, I think, I don't blame him for not expecting an on-course Crafty. I probably also would have gotten got by that, but...
Oh, I absolutely would have gotten by that. Yeah, no, like, 100%.
Yeah, Matt was really short-circuiting in front of that Mudsdale, which I think is fair. That's kind of the Mudsdale effect, why doesn't this ever die, Yeah. But it's just, there were so many opportunities where Matt was just like, I'm going to try and set up, but he was just always doing it a little too early, or without the knowledge that he needed, or without the necessary pieces removed from Snake's team. And by the end of it, I think this was a Scarf Chi-Yu, and it really just, it got there in the end. Had all the right moves, got all the right, all the right rolls in all the right places, and ultimately, it was an incredibly close endgame, but Snake finally getting the second win, and maybe a new lease on life, keeping his head above water.
Yeah, absolutely. Can never hate getting another W.
Certainly not, and we'll take it at this point, especially given how narrow now the margins are becoming in this division. People are starting to coalesce around the middle. The people who are ahead aren't ahead by much. But people that are ahead are, in fact, still going to be fighting each other, and that brings us directly into our third match of the week. We've got Spoopman, coach of the Heerlen Hawluchas, versus Kenneth, coach of the washed-up Wishiwashis. And this is just another game that looks hopeless for Spoopman from Team Preview, man. I'm not going to lie to you. I've never at any point been a believer in this draft, and I've only ever been eating my words in a delightful little word salad every single week, seeing this thing just constantly winning. So,
yep.
I don't know. I feel like I don't even understand what I'm watching when I watch the Spoopman matches. I feel like I watch them, and then my eyes roll back in my head, and then it's over and he won. And I can't make heads or tails of it.
Yeah, Spoopman, he's definitely got a, we'll say, inspired draft this time around. But, it doesn't take away from the fact that he is just a very good player. He is a very strong player. He's been in Double Dip for quite a while. He's shown that he's very strong, but Kenneth also a very strong player. And just looking at this team, how on earth does it deal with a Keldeo?
Yeah.
There's just no way it takes on a Keldeo. Granted, we have Terra fighting on the Aggron, which does help it out a fair bit. But even then, Keldeo can run Air Slash as well.
Yeah, and it's not a resist to water either, the thing about, Spoopman's team that's so difficult is that it lacks meaningful ice resists, and it especially lacks water resists. It goes both ways. He doesn't have, ground immunities here, so Crocodile, especially with Intimidate into this team that is just 6 physical attackers, there are so many things that, just seem like hard counters to this team, but he's just always so nimbly working around the downsides, and again just making it look stronger than I believed it was. Conversely, Kenneth has had a pretty unremarkable season in that he did drop an uncharacteristic game to Eevee, but has more or less just been winning his games as expected, has been performing well with a very solid draft, getting different stuff excelling every week. He's gotten value out of his Mega Banette, and we've seen the Rabombi Quiver Dance sweep. We're seeing Cramorant off the bench for the first time, which is exciting because I do think it performs pretty well into this team as well.
I agree. But let's see how well it performs into this team. What do you say?
Yeah, let's do it. Our interim lead, we see Banette gets an early frisk on the Choice Scarf, but does not opt to leave. Instead invites in the Tyranitar, goes for a Will-O-Wisp, and unfortunately gets blocked by the Dark typing. Also gets Pursuit trapped by Tyranitar, so...
Yeah.
That's difficult for Cam, takes a ton of early damage, loses a lot of early positioning, but he does at least have some intel now.
Yeah, no, he at least now knows that the Tyrantrum is Scarf, so he can be prepared for that. And at this point, I mean, like, Moxie boosted Crocodile, like, it hurts so much.
Yep. That Scarf damage just not enough, you know, immediately drops 2 to this Moxie Crocodile, and it already looks so strong.
Garchomp managing to outspeed and getting that scale shot off, very nice.
Opts to not Mega Evolve to keep the speed up. And Cam smartly switching out, gets the double there, trying to bait in the Tyranitar, gets into the Electros, gets behind the Substitute. And this Electros has a very strong set into this team. It is Coil. The Levitating Electric type does not have any natural weaknesses, and especially into this team, behind that sub, no Toxic. You've got these Coils are setting up both offensively and defensively, and this whole team is physical attackers, so once you have enough Coils off, this thing becomes very hard to break.
Yeah. Here we go for a Drain Punch, and we do see that we're running a Rocky Helmet aggron, so we're actually losing more health than we are gaining back. Head Smash is going to be able to wind up breaking the sub, but we're opting to keep going for it, banking on the Head Smash miss, and we do finally get that. So at this point, we're free to start cooling back up again, but instead we go for another Drain Punch.
Yeah, I think this whole interaction would have played out better for Kenneth had he not... The very first Drain Punch he did, he should have just kept coiling behind sub over and over, because if he were up to maybe 4 times, or at least 3 times defense right now, I don't think Head Smash could actually break the sub. But as it stands, the Head Smash, these Drain Punches just not quite healing enough because he's not doing enough damage, and these Head Smashes are still doing enough to break sub. So if Kenneth had gotten more coils earlier, I actually think that probably just wins right there.
I agree. Especially like if Tyranitar comes out and just takes like a random Drain Punch, then like it's absolutely over. Garchomp could be a little scary, but like even then, I don't think it could break sub. That was all that defense, but that's an alternate reality. This is the real world.
The one we're in. Yep. We see Dracozolt come out, and Kenneth does sniff out that it's probably Scarf, so he leaves, opts to sack the Cramorant, still dies in one shot because Volbeak is just that good. Mega Banette comes out, and if it did get a Prankster hit off, then, Volbeak does half damage, and this Will-O-Wisp really neuters both of the remaining Pokemon. And a quick, cheeky Pain Split also gets this thing right back in the game. Scale Shot doing so little damage, especially off only the 2 hits. And with this burn, man, it's just like this thing can't really make a lot of progress. Outrage only doing 28%.
Yep. Cam is opting to go for the damage here, but unfortunately losing Bennett to the Rough Skin, and at that point, the Choice Scarf, Dracozolt will be able to come in and just click that Bolt Beak and pick up the final KO.
Yep. In spite of the webs, it is still faster if you've got a Scarf, and that's why Kevin switched out earlier, stacking the Cramorant, because he was afraid of exactly this coming. And that it was, and that's kind of what's difficult, because when we look at this with the benefit of hindsight, there are a handful of different plays that Kenneth could have done differently that would have secured this. He could have, again, if he'd gotten earlier more coils instead of going for those Drain Punches, he obviously didn't know that it was Rocky Helmet on his first Drain Punch. He couldn't have known that quite yet, but he didn't necessarily have to. Like, you don't have to even start Drain Punching until your sub's down, because you still just have opportunities, and like the more that you coil, the more health you're recovering off these Drain Punches, the more damage you're doing, the less damage you're taking. So coil should have been the priority over hitting those Drain Punches, and especially the second one was just kind of again, if it was another coil, maybe he would have had just enough stamina to get through, but as it stands, effectively, the Terra Aggron was able to trade with the coil, and also, again, like, Banette takes an early, pretty telegraphed Tyranitar switch in and Pursuit Trap, and even there at the very end, like, you could have maybe potentially switched hard out into Keldeo on that burnt Garchomp, because Keldeo is probably not taking that much damage, and you just need to stall out a few more sand turns before you can reduce Dracozold's damage, because it's not going to outrun you after webs, even if it's Scarfed, as long as the Sandstorm is down, and the Sandstorm was only up for 2 more turns after, so there was like a web of different little changes that Kenneth could have made to secure this endgame, but just none of them happened.
Yeah, and it's just, that's how it is sometimes. But with that, we only have one match remaining. And that is Eevee of the Puppytown Ponytas versus Mekira of Eevee Inc. Eevee Inc. Once again, we've got 4 Eeveelutions this time.
4.5, counting Ditto. I mean, honorary team member. And, really, what is Ursaluna Blood Moon if not just, like, the ground-type Eeveelution?
Yeah, big Eevee.
Big Eevee.
Large Eevee.
Pretty much going into this, Mekira doesn't have a win quite yet. Eevee, having picked up her first win on Chemith pretty recently, is still in the game, but definitely needs to pick this one up as well. And looks postured to win it in general. The problem is that, like, Eevee has Como-O, and that's been kind of the backbone of her winning strategies, like that and Mega Scizor. But Mega Scizor's not here, and Como-O is incredibly exposed to Ditto's Imposter, right? Because Como-O, all of its good sets, whether it's Subsalic Berry or, Iron Defense Body Press or Clangorous Soul, whatever, all of these involve raising its own stats, which means it's very exposed to a Scarf Ditto coming in, stealing those stat changes and killing it back if it's not behind a sub. So really, all Mekira has to do is, hopefully maneuver around, put enough pressure on so that Como-O can't get behind a sub, and then Eevee can just steal the sweep, and reverse it.
Yeah. And, Como-O, can, kind of set up, in front of, say Sylveon if it's running Pixelate Hyper Voice, but even then it still has to be worried about, a random Draining Kiss or a random Moonblast as well.
Right, because it can be soundproof. It can also be bulletproof, which I think blocks Moonblast, if I'm not mistaken.
It does not block Moonblast. Little fun fact, I forget what it's actually called, but a lot of the Japanese, a lot of the bullet moves are based off of their Japanese names.
Right.
And Moonblast's Japanese name is not the same as say something like Shadow Ball or Energy Ball.
Sure, and that's something that Bullet Punch also doesn't get blocked because it's not that's not a direct sort of transliteration thing. But it's, sorry, I guess, I don't know, I just see the showdown animation is pink ball, and it reminds me of green ball and purple ball, so I just assume...
For the record, I think it should be blocked.
I don't know.
Yeah, but,
either way,
it's also... Yeah.
Well, you're right, because, not only does Sylveon still, put on pressure, even with just, a Draining Kiss or just some alternate, fairy coverage move, but in general, I mean, Sylveon is entirely unresisted by this team. Even Shiinotic, which is a mushroom and maybe you'd think is poison, is grass fairy. So none of this stuff actually resists fairy, and a calm-minded Sylveon can be a huge pain in the neck for this team. And not to mention, Glaceon Freeze Dry is super effective into 5 of these Pokemon.
Yeah, and it's rocking Terra Ghost too, so if we do see Body Press, it can't be touched. At least by that. I think the only thing that this team really needs to be worried about is possibly a Heavy Slam from Donphan. I don't even know if it gets that. I know it gets Iron Head at the very least. But then we just have a Flareon. So you can at least take that, but not the Earthquake.
Yeah. I think from Eevee's side, you probably want to see just a lot of, status spreading, Stun Spores out of Shiinotic, Thunder Waves out of Rotom Wash. Donphan can get some mileage, especially into something like Ursaluna or Flareon. And, I think in general, soften up the team. From Eevee's perspective, you just soften up the enemy team and find a way to get your Como-O behind a substitute you might be able to, depending on the set, safely set up. But really, if you're not careful, Eevee can just, grabs that right out from underneath you.
Yep. Speaking of which, let's see if Ditto does grab anything this match. So, opting for the Shiinotic lead, I do love that. And immediately going for a Spore. And Safety Goggles Flareon is so fire.
It's great. I mean, it's just a stellar switch into Shiinotic. It's perfect. It can't be stopped,
Yeah.
Thunderwave dodge from yum, in a crit. Mekira with some early yummy luck here. But, you know, pays for it with 1 paralysis. Pays for it with 2 paralysis turns. We get to switch on to
with a third paralysis turn.
Paralysis turn. 3 consecutive paralysis turns. Unfortunate for Mekira. He really pays in spades back that that 1 crit.
Yep.
Ooh, Shadow Ball living on that natural sash though.
Yep. Not just not able to eke out that kill on Glaceon, getting killed back by that Shadow Ball.
Probably for the best, because you don't want to expose that thing to getting the boosts taken by Ditto anyway, right? Like, if you're set up, +2 Calm Mind, like, ooh.
I was kind of surprised to not see Ditto come out sooner.
True. But, you know, we see this, Superpower goes in to try and kill it after 2 Trailblazes, but it actually has a Chobble Berry, and it comes in clutch. The team building looking very good from Mekira's end this week.
Mm-hmm. Going for the Protect, saving itself in front of the Flare and trying to scout what it's going for. And just another natural sash. I was just a little surprised to not see like a quick attack or something from this Flareon. Just to get that last little chip and that last little bit of damage on Noctowl, but maybe trying to predict a switch.
Yeah. Also, it got Parrot again, so 4 straight turns of Sylveon being out and trying to click a move resulted in a full para, which is kind of insane.
Yeah. I do also know from talking with Aurora, this is a AV Sylveon, so it is very bulky.
And it's good because that pairs very nicely with Draining Kiss. Any AV Pokemon that can heal either through a healing move like Giga Drain or Regenerator or something are just really something to be reckoned with.
Yeah.
And Shouting Match ends in Community Manager win, and there's the Draining Kiss that we were just implying, and I don't know about you, but I don't think the community manager should be kissing people. That seems a little inappropriate.
God forbid women do anything.
I'm just saying the power imbalance,
Listen, I think the community manager deserves it as a little treat.
Just a little treat every once in a while, just a little kiss on the cheek, security. Okay.
Security manager.
So we see a net 0 turn where Eevee accidentally lets the light screen go a turn too early, but then there's a full para on Mekira's side, so it doesn't even matter.
Yeah. And at this point, this Sylveon's pretty done. It's very low. It's paralyzed, and it's also done its job. I think the main thing it was meant to do was deal with Rotom. Yep.
And from this position, you don't want to risk this thing getting behind a substitute. So again, Mekira wisely just goes in for the superpower. Like, I'm gonna make sure that sub doesn't go up. Gets a crit, so actually does a respectable amount of damage behind the +4.
Yep.
And then flirts with all the crits.
Mr. President, a second crit has hit the Como.
It's legitimately like the occurrences of this match are insane. I need a statistician in here ASAP because what is happening in here?
I do not know, but at this point, Ditto gets to come in. It's like, oh, thank you for setting up for me. I appreciate that.
Yeah,
I'm gonna so much.
As they say on Reddit, I'm gonna buy the tasty dip. I mean, like, genuinely, Ditto could have come out like 5 different times this game and just grabbed the boosts either from Rapidash or Como or Noctowl. Like, Eevee was really trying to find one of those setup sweeps while Ditto was alive and well. And I mean, it was to the point where I was expecting almost like a psych up or something. Like maybe she's baiting him to get the Ditto in so she can steal the boost back, but. No, I don't think there was anything like that. I think that maybe she just overlooked the Ditto during prep, and it was proven why you don't overlook the Ditto.
Yeah, Ditto is the anti-setup mon. If your opponent has Ditto, you are just not allowed to set up.
Or you at least got to get a little creative with it. Yeah, but that's huge. Big news for Mekira. Not only is that a win, it's a nice 4-0 win. It doesn't really put him back in contention, but it at least keeps him from going winless for the entire season.
We all love getting at least 1 W, no matter what.
Yeah, we don't like to see zeros anywhere. We want to see 1 being the lowest number, maybe even 2 if we're lucky.
I would love it too.
But to that end, that is the 4 matches of the week, and we've got some pretty interesting standings that we can get into. I'm going to go ahead and take the top 4 if you want to take the bottom.
Absolutely.
So leading the pack still as of week 5 is Cabral of the Slinging Aegislashers at a 4-1 plus 12 differential. Second place goes to Spoopman of the Heerlen Hawluchas sitting at 4-1 plus 6. And we have a tie for third place between the Bekasi Bisharps, coached by Milotics, and the washed up Wishiwashis, coached by Kenneth, both sitting at a 3-2 plus 4.
Yep, and then at 5th, we have Anchor, coach of the DuDanishDunsparce, sitting at 2-3 with a differential of 3. We have Snake of the Miami Milotics, sitting at 2-3 with a differential of -9. We have Eevee of Puppytown Ponytas, sitting at 1-4 with a differential also of -9. And then finally, we have Mekira of Eevee Inc. sitting at 1-4 with a differential of -11.
So that was a pretty equalizing week. It's actually, there's, in keeping with the trend of pretty aesthetic numbers out of the Magma division, we have 4-4, 3-3, 2-2, 1-1. Yep. There's just 2 of each possible number here. I guess there's no 5 or 0 anymore, which is good, but, it's a, I wouldn't call it an even spread, but there's nothing that is so wide that it's insurmountable, at least for maybe the top 6 players. I would say the hardest time that someone is going to have who realistically still has a shot is Snake, who is sitting at a -9 differential compared to Anchor's +3, sharing the same win-loss of 2 and 3. So, really, I think, it's fairly safe to say that having taken that loss, Eevee is more or less out of contention for playoffs. Mekira was basically already out of contention for playoffs, but at least, again, he got that 1 win. Sets himself up for maybe a stronger end to the season. I know last season I personally went 0-5 my first 5 weeks, and then I won my last 2. So sometimes it's just like that.
Yeah, absolutely. Sometimes you just take a little longer to get into the swing of things. You don't quite get how your team works, but then it clicks, and it's like, oh, bet, okay. I wish I played like this sooner.
Right, and that just sucks, because that's just, the nature of the game sometimes. But I think a trend we're going to start seeing is that the top end of Magma still pretty much all have to fight each other, right? Going into this next week, we've got number 1 versus number 2. That's Cabral versus Spoopman. And we also have the number 3 tie between Milotics and Kemet. They're also playing next week. So we're going to guarantee one of each of those sets of players an extra win and the other one an extra loss. Conversely, Anchor, who, again, not in top 4 right now, is still sitting with a positive diff and has fought everybody on the top side now. So all Anchor has left is the people at the bottom 2, both of the 1 and 4s. So if Anchor can win both of those in a fairly convincing manner, they're looking at 4 and 3 with a pretty respectable diff. And some of the Magma folks, are guaranteed to be going into, one of either Kemet or Milotics is going into week 7 at a 3 and 3, So, Anchor could very easily come up and grab the spot of whoever between the 2 of them doesn't make it.
Yeah, no, at this point, Cabral and Spoopman, pretty safe to have that top 4 slot. But, 3rd, 4th, 5th, it is going to be just a mess of, musical chairs trying to get just enough wins, just enough differential to secure that top 4 spot and earn their seat at the playoffs table.
Yeah, the differential being as tight as it is, just think about the fact that, let's say, I think I think everybody had fought them, but just the hypothetical, right? Had Milotics and Spoopman not already fought, a 1-0 win would tie them up, right? A 4-1-6 versus a 3-2-4, that's, -1 from 6, +1 from 4, at a win and a loss, respectively, that's a tied record. So, these records are really close together, to the extent where you're right, it is musical chairs. Not only, I think it's safe to say, I think we can assume, Cabral and Spoopman are probably going on. I think there is some shenanigans afoot that could move them out of contention. Specifically, I think Bootman is a lot more exposed to being only at a +6 compared to Cabral's +12. But I don't see them going below 4th. But really, first place is still up for grabs. You could even really, honestly, realistically, see Anchor come up and take first place, all the way from 5th in these last 2 weeks.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So
it is not out of possibility. Like, if Cabral just gets, like, 6-0, like, these next 2 weeks, like, yeah, he's still, like, top 4, but, like, he's now at the bottom of 4th.
Yeah, so there's a lot of possibilities that we can see out of here, but we have more or less narrowed the field to 5 realistic contenders, 1 long shot contender, and I think it is unfortunately safe to say that, barring an act of God, Eevee and Mechira are both out.
Yeah, 100%, unfortunately.
But honestly, yeah, I think that's about it. I think Week 6 is going to shine a real light on who's locked in and who's going to have to lock in if they don't want to get kicked out.
Yeah.
If you enjoyed this video...
You could say they're really making waves right now.
Ooh! Okay, look, hey, speaking of waves, you can check out the Aqua Division recap if you want to hear about the stuff that happened over there. That division is shaping up to be very top-heavy compared to all the other divisions. You can also...
You don't have to watch Aqua this week. No, that's fine.
Don't worry about Aqua. It doesn't actually exist, you know. Team Magma, we love the ground. You gotta have that ground. Rocket... I cover Rocket with Cabral, and that division is also incredibly slim, down to the 7th place margin. It's a really interesting division if you haven't been keeping up with it. And Skull, I'm balling out. Please come watch me ball out in Skull division if you haven't done that yet either.
I cover Skull with Aurora. It's great.
Great division. Yeah, check it out. Thank you all very much for watching. We're looking forward to seeing you next week for the penultimate week of Division Stage Double Dip Draft Season 8, and you are not going to want to miss it.
Yes, look forward to it.